So, hey Jack, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you keeping?
Not too bad at all, not too bad at all. It doesn't seem that long since the last provincials and the All Irelands
No.
were over, but we're back there again. Um, I thought we'd start with Leinster, which appears to
Yeah.
be one of the more straightforward to pick. Can you see past anyone other than Dublin?
No, I don't think anyone other than Dublin win. They're very dominant when it comes to Leinster and they kind of win every match easily. Then there's no one else really that I think would challenge them at all.
No, I think it's something like 15 in a row now. It is hard to look past
Yeah.
them. I mean, I think part of the problem is if you look at the competition in there, I don't think there's very many of the teams in that province that play in the even in the Allianz Division One.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
that gap, that chasm is just too huge. I can't see anybody bridging it this year. If one team is going to do it, it might be Louth. They've
Yeah,
obviously been in the last two finals, and I don't know what you thought. I thought they were quite competitive last year.
yeah, they were definitely more competitive last year compared to the year before. Like, they definitely
Yeah,
bridged the gap a bit, but it'll be
and
difficult for them to fully, overcome Dublin, I think.
I agree. And I think losing by 4 points is an achievement in itself. But I think
Yeah.
that tells you everything about Dublin's dominance. So although the odds are incredibly short on a Dublin win, I don't think you can ignore it.
No, you definitely have to go with Dublin.
I think so. I think so. I suppose the good news is the rest are all pretty open and pretty competitive.
Yeah.
There's very little to choose between the Munster teams, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think well, Kerry would definitely be their favourites.
Mm.
They're a strong team, but I suppose you couldn't look past Cork. They're always kind of improving. But I don't know
I
what you think about Cork.
I like Cork. I think that Kerry are the obvious favourites, but I have a sneaky feeling that Cork might actually do it this year. I watched them a bit last season, and they seem offensively they're very good. Um, and I think on their day they can outscore anybody. Players like Paul Walsh have got a lot of firepower. And I think with some of the rule changes coming in, especially increasing the number of points for a goal, I think teams might be a bit more open, might suit Cork. So, got a feeling Cork could be a bit of an outside point this year, and they might actually do quite well.
That would be good to see them because, like, Kerry are dominating that, like Dublin. So it'd be good if the team could get closer.
Yeah, I hope so because I think it's like four in a row for Kerry, and I think
Yeah,
it's good to have them a little bit closer. And I think Cork, the way I think they really they dismantled Limerick last year in the quarters, and they look really good. And they're inconsistent and defensively they look a little bit exposed at times, but I think on their day they can beat anybody. So
I think
got
so.
a sneaky feeling for them this year.
Yeah. I hope you're right.
Yeah. Um, in terms of Connacht, I don't know how you feel about the Connacht province. I think that's
I
one of the
think
toughest ones to call.
definitely it's a tough one to call. There's only five teams, or six teams in it,
Yeah,
but definitely three of them have a chance.
I agree.
Galway and Mayo are definitely the favourites, but Galway had a strong year last year getting to the All Ireland final. They beat
Mm.
Dublin in the quarter final, so they'll come into this year full of confidence. So I probably have them as the slight favourites.
I tend to agree. I think there's not a lot between them and Mayo. I think was it a point last season? It's very little
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
provincial
later on,
final, and I
yeah.
think they've shared the last five between them. But I think Galway have won three on the spin now, and I think although when they play Mayo, it's mostly a point here or there. They seem to have the edge in those big games. So I think if you were gonna pick one, you'd pick Galway. I can't see Mayo changing anything significantly to
Yeah.
turn it around.
As you said there about the rules earlier, Galway
Mm,
have a lot of brilliant attacking players, so I
yeah.
think lots of these rules will suit them. But in the trial game there, the trial of the rules a couple of weeks ago, Aidan O'Shea for Mayo really stood out. So unless
Mm.
if Mayo can use him as with these new rules, they'll definitely have a chance. But I'd say go Roscommon, so kind of always are looking like they'll get there, but they always struggle when it comes to playing Galway, especially Mayo. Mayo seems to always turn them over.
They've got a couple of really good players.
Mm.
Roscommon, a couple of really good individuals. I just feel that I mean, Diarmid Murtagh in attack, especially centre forward, they've got some really good forward players. But
Yeah.
I just like you say, I just don't. I think it's the collective. I don't think they were strong collectively, and I think when it comes to those big games, they just fall short. Like the semi-final last year against Mayo, they didn't
Very
really perform. So I tend to agree they're a threat and they're a team to watch, but I think it's out of Galway and Mayo, and I'd probably give the nod to Galway. How do we feel about
Um,
the Ulster?
yeah, I'd say that's definitely the most competitive out of them all. And there's lots of
Yeah,
kind of teams that'll definitely challenge. Armagh are probably favourites just because they won the All Ireland last year. But I think there's 4 or 5 teams definitely that I think they can go all the way.
I agree. I think with Armagh, it's really interesting because I don't think Armagh have the sort of the individual firepower of some of the other teams, but
Mm.
collectively they're
Collective,
so organised and well drilled. And I think they've probably been the most consistent team over the last 2 years. If you think about the two finals, two provincial final losses on penalties, really
yeah,
unlucky, and then going
very,
all the way in the All Ireland last year. And the teams they beat, I think they knocked out Dublin. They've knocked out some really strong sides last year. So I can't see past them. I just think they're too strong. But you're right, it's a very open division, and I thought a very open province. I think there are three or four potential winners there.
yeah. I'd say probably Donegal might be the closest, as defending champions there
Yeah,
in Ulster, and they have a good manager in Jim McGuinness. So I think he's tactically sound.
yeah,
So I think with these new rules, he might find a way to, take advantage of them or find a way to take advantage of them.
definitely. And I think he's given them a competitive edge, very much so. And I think it was in the game where they shocked Derry last year, where
Mm.
I think they ran in 4 goals.
Yeah,
Tactically, they absolutely outthought Derry, who were massive favourites to win.
mm.
And I think that just shows you what difference he can make. So he gives them an edge that makes them competitive in that province, and probably in the All Islands as well if they get
Yeah.
if they get there.
I'd wonder. I wouldn't be sure now about Derry. They had a tough year last year, and I think
Mm,
with these new rules, definitely looking like they're benefiting attacking teams. Derry are more of a defensive team, so I
yeah,
think they definitely have to adapt. But they have a strong squad, so we'll see how they react to their bad year.
I think that's it. It's how they react. It's very true. Yeah, how they react to that setback is going to be key. But I do think that touching back on that game against Donegal, where they were really blitzed, I think it just showed when teams really attacked them with intensity, as Donegal did,
Mm.
they really struggled. And I think because of the new rules, I think teams will be more likely to open up and have a go at them, especially as they've seen that weakness.
Yeah,
So I think they may struggle with that. It could be a bit of a transitional year for Derry, where they try and adapt to the new rules and try and recover. They're always a threat, but I don't think they're going to finish ahead of Donegal or
yeah, I'd agree with you
yeah,
there.
I don't think so this year. But I suppose that leads us on to the All Ireland then, which
Yeah,
is always tough to call.
very tough to call now. We've sort of gone through nearly all our contenders based on the provincial
Well, yeah,
champs.
true. I mean, I don't know. Do you know what? It's a really difficult one to pick this year. Um, I do I do think Dublin at some point will probably start to convert a little bit of that dominance into All Ireland wins. I mean, they were dominant obviously middle of the last decade where they won a few in a
Mm.
row, but they haven't won it for four now, and they haven't really looked like winning it. They've got so much quality though, and they're so used to winning that
Yeah,
I do think at some point they're going to turn up in the All Ireland series, and it could be this year.
yeah, I'd agree. I think that'd be my pick now this year. I think well, a lot of players are coming near the end of their time. There's a few
Mm.
players in their early 30s, mid 30s. So if they all continue on for another year, it could be their last chance to win, to add to their many All Irelands. But I think, they're over the last decade, they've been a very attacking team. They're definitely a team that just their goal is to go out and score more than the opposition. So these rule changes could be perfect for them to go out
I
and win
agree.
another All
I,
Ireland.
yeah, I agree. I think like, Armagh obviously defending champions. It's a difficult tournament to retain. It's a difficult competition to retain. But like I said, they've got that collective strength, and they've been so consistent the last 2 years, and they're a very difficult side to beat. But again, I'm not sure how the new rules will favour them or whether they will. I'm not convinced that whether it will really benefit Armagh. I think teams with better quality attackers
Yeah,
could
definitely
find a way
see.
to beat them. Yeah. So I think they may struggle to retain it this year. I would probably go for Dublin out of the contenders.
Would there be anyone else other than Dublin Armagh you think would?
Well, I always like Kerry. I think Kerry are consistent, but then again, if but because I'm not convinced that they're going to win the provincial, I don't know how that will affect them.
Yeah,
Kerry are one of those teams that always seems to be there or thereabouts, and they've got that. They've got a lot of experience. So I do think they're a threat. I think they'll be around. They'll be in the reckoning, but
yeah,
I do think it might be Dublin's year.
yeah. I think with Kerry, definitely they've brilliant attacking talent with like the two
Yeah,
Clifford brothers and that. But
yeah,
the last few years, they always look like they struggle defensively.
yeah.
So with the rule now that everyone has to keep three forwards up at all times, they could be found out in defence when their
I
left
tend to
exposed.
agree. Yeah, and I think even with Cork, who I actually would pick to nick the Munster province, I just think that I think their attacking quality will tell in that, especially with the new rules. But I do feel that when they get to All Ireland, it's the defensive side of the game that could catch them out. I still think that over the course of those games, when you get into the last stages of that tournament,
Mm.
Dublin, it's hard to go toe to toe with Dublin offensively. So I think Cork are an outside tip, but I don't see that. Although I see them doing well in Munster, I don't see them doing it in the All Ireland.
I'd agree. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that might sum it up. I think that's pretty good. Have you got any other any tips or anything to look out for this year?
Maybe one I'd definitely pick. I mentioned earlier Donegal, just because
Yeah,
of Jim McGuinness. Maybe they got to the semi-final last year. I can't look past Dublin, but I definitely think if I was to pick another team, I'd be picking Donegal just because of the way they tactically set up, and they always look strong defensively and they're very good forwards. And
yeah,
I think over the years, Jim McGuinness, when they played Dublin, he always has a sort of a plan. I remember they played them back in 2014, and they played in high balls into Michael Murphy, and they got a couple of goals out of it. So I think he'll have a plan when the time comes. If the time comes out, they could get knocked out early. You never know.
I would tend to agree. I think they're always a good tip, and I think the coach makes such a difference to them. And I do think they do score goals. They do score, and I think that with the extra point for that, I think that could give them an edge in some games. So I agree. I think they're there. Like I said, I will keep an eye on Cork. I don't think they'll go all the way in the All Ireland, but I think if they get there, I think they could be really entertaining, and I think they
Yeah,
can take down anybody. So I think it could be a really interesting ride. I think it'll be really competitive this year.
yeah. I think it looks like it's going to be a really good competition this year now, especially with the new rules. Hopefully, in recent years, some of the matches have been very boring to watch. So hopefully,
Yeah, I
this
think so.
gets a bit of a spark going in the championship.
Well, I hope so because we had difficulty calling it, so it must be quite close. So I think,
Mm.
yeah, it's definitely one to look forward to this year. So Jack on the Leinster, just having a quick look at that as well. Obviously we've gone through who we think might be the best picks. Is there anyone you think offers particular value, or someone who might be represent a bit of an outside bet?
Dublin's odds are definitely too low. So if you were looking at an outside bet, I think Loud are coming in at odds of around 5.00 or in and around that. And then Kildare are always threatening, so that they'll be slightly higher odds. So I think if you were to pick two outsiders, or if you wanted bets with stronger odds, I'd say Loud or Kildare.
Yeah, I think Kildare are a bit higher. I think Kildare might be around 13. So I mean that's quite a big
Yeah,
shout. I mean, so I think that's if you really want to have a little punt on someone on a genuine outside winner, we've got to stress though that it is an outside bet.
it's definitely an
It's a
outside.
massive
Yeah,
outside bet. But yeah, Dublin very low, around 113, 1.13, which is incredibly low.
incredibly low,
Um,
too low. But
yeah,
it's
I
right that
think
they're that low.
it is. I mean, it's obviously reflective of the fact they've won so many consecutive provincial titles, but there's very little value in that. Obviously, value in that they'll win, but the returns are minimal. But yeah, I agree. Louth and Kildare potentially if you're looking for an
Yeah,
outside pick. I think.
yeah,
Um, I think in um, I think in Munster, I think one of the reasons I was attracted to Cork is you can get on them at around 6.50.
that's very good.
Um, yeah, I think that's decent odds for Cork. I think it reflects the fact that they are a threat and they are a very capable team, but there's plenty of value there. I think looking at Kerry, I think in some cases they're even lower than Dublin at
Yeah,
around 108 to an ebb, which is
no way. Yeah.
incredibly low. And I think looking at Cork, I think backing them to win outright at 6.5 is probably a good deal. If you go outside that, you're looking at Clare around 21. I don't really see Clare
I wouldn't
threatening.
see
So
Clare challenging them.
no, I think if you're looking for a sort of value bet there, I think probably Cork offers the best value.
Yeah, I'd agree. That's good odds for Cork. I think that's worth a chance for someone.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that of course the odds may shorten, but I think at the moment that's a pretty good bet. In Connacht, you've got you've got three really relatively low priced options. There's very little between Galway and Mayo. Um, so Galway at 2.10 probably not a bad shout.
I think that's good. Yeah, that's decent odds for Galway's favourites.
Yeah, I think so. Especially for a team that is favoured, I think 2.10 gives you a decent return, and it does reflect how tight it is between them and Mayo. But like you say, with the attacking rule changes, the fact they've had the competitive
Mm.
edge, so regularly between the two sides in the last sort of 3 or 4 years, I think that's good value. I think you touched on Ross Common there, 5.50, which I think is pretty decent value. I don't see them winning it though.
No, neither do I. No.
I think they're a team to watch, and I think if you do engage in sort of individual match bets, um, certainly picking them to win against a lot of the other contenders is decent. At
Mm.
5.50 though, I think they may be arguably a little short to win the province outright.
Yeah, they're definitely a strong team on their day, but the
Yeah,
whole tournament, I wouldn't think they'll have enough.
yeah, I think they lack that consistency, don't they? When it comes to, I think we touched on this one as the toughest to call, which was Ulster, and
Yeah.
I think that is reflected by the odds. I think there's around four sides, all priced at 5.00 or less.
Wow.
Um, I mean, you can take, yeah, that
Take your
includes
pick, you
Tyrone.
know. Mm.
Yeah, and Tyrone, who we didn't even touch on.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this is a really tough division to call. The good news is if you do fancy Omar, 3.75, that's really good odds for a favourite.
it just shows how even the bookmakers don't know who's going to win that one.
Yeah, I mean, the implied probability there is really low. So I think
Yeah.
they're basically splitting their bets between, or hedging their bets between four or five different winners. Um, Derry of four, I think that's a little low, as
Bit
we've
low,
touched
yeah.
on. I think Derry will find it harder this season. Donegal at five. I like that bet.
That's a good price. Only gone
Yeah.
five, especially considering the defending champions there in Ulster as well. They know
Well,
how
this
to
is
win it.
yeah, it's interesting to look for the fact that they're defending champions and they won well last year. Um, the fact that they're priced five and they're actually priced higher than Tyrone at four.
Hmm.
I mean, that tells you a great deal. I think that is a good value bet. So if you're looking to back somebody who you think's got a good chance of winning but has a decent price as well, I think Donegal are a really good tip.
Yeah, especially last year now along the way to winning Ulster, they beat Derry, Tyrone, and Armagh, the other real three challengers. So
Yes,
five
absolutely.
point zero, that's really good odds, I think.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we probably will see those shorten as the start date draws closer. I think there'll be a lot of takers at that price, so we'll see how that one plays out. For the All Ireland, I think I'm pretty right in saying that I think Dublin are narrow favourites, but I think it's very tight between them and Kerry.
Right, they always bookmakers always pick Dublin and Kerry at the start of the year, it
Yeah,
seems.
I think it's the safest pick.
Yeah,
I just feel that I think Dublin you can get on them at a moment around between 4.33. That's pretty good value for Dublin.
I think that's yeah. Definitely, I think after the league now, that would probably shorten. If Dublin have a strong league campaign, they'll probably shorten that before the
Yeah,
All Ireland. But I think picking them now would probably be the right time to.
yeah. I'm presuming that their dominance in Leinster has been factored into the pricing, but even
Yeah,
then, if they perform particularly strongly and record some of the sort of winning margins they've recorded in the last few years, yeah, I think that price will drop. So I think if you do fancy Dublin, this is probably the best price you're going to get on them,
yeah.
around 4.33, I think. So that's a really good take. Kerry, I think around four. I like Kerry. I think we touched on them as outside bets, but not 100% sure about Kerry. Even at four, might
No,
be a
neither way.
teeny bit low. But as ever, we'll see. But I think otherwise, our Armour are a little bit longer priced, and like I say, they're the defending champions. You can't overlook them.
You can't overlook Armagh. Yeah, they'll definitely have another strong year. Whether they go the whole way again will be difficult for them.
Yeah, but I think it's an outright bet go. I think Dublin or Armour probably this year for 2025 probably offers the best value at the moment.
Yeah, I'd agree definitely. And Dublin are definitely the pick for me, but Armagh will have a great chance. And as a bit stronger odds, it's a good idea to go for them again.
I think so. Or of course, yeah. So I think keep an eye on them changing, but I do recommend or I do think if you fancy Dublin, it's probably better to bet now than later, or pick
Yeah.
them now than later on. So I think that's it for now, Jack. Insight's really good. Thanks for chatting with me and going through it.
Good chat, thank you.
You can check out all the latest odds and compare them at Betting Ireland. Obviously, they're going to change quite a lot between now and the start of the provincial championships. But yeah, check them out, have a look, see if any you like, and see which sports books are offering the very best odds. And yeah, make your pick. But obviously, take a look and see if you see who you think is going to win as well. And factor in our picks as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, Jack.